Hi, welcome to Million Mile Garage. If you're looking for a little information on how to do battle with an insurance company and maybe see what it takes to do some of the work yourself, if you're trying to save a car that's probably been written up as totaled, you definitely come to the right place. This is my 2002 Maxima. It's been in the family since it was new. It's wearing its original paint here, and it was doing just fine until I had a talking, texting driver smash into it and try to turn it into a two-door. So all the damage is pretty much superficial, cosmetic damage really. There's no frame damage. The car runs and drives exactly as it did before. Here's a nice shot of the leather interior. It's been, the leather's been conditioned every 3 or 4 months since I bought it. The car was absolutely immaculate, just absolutely sickening to have something like this happen. Talking, texting driver, no signal or anything, instant lane change, and there's the result. So what Geico's trying to do is total my car out. And the first thing they do is they write you up a inflated repair estimate. And I'll get into that a little later in the video and show you how they do that and how you can avoid them letting them do that to you. And then they grossly undervalue the vehicle. And then what they do is they hide behind Alabama's 75% replacement rule. So if the repair cost exceeds 75% of the vehicle, they total it. And here's the white car I found online at LKQ Pickup Part, which is exactly the same color as mine. So what did I do? I bought the doors myself for $90 a piece and installed them. And it actually doesn't look too bad, just the way it is. If you weren't a real picky guy, you'd probably just leave it the way it is and just say, hey, it's a daily driver, and let it go. But because I didn't cause the accident, and I didn't think it was fair for Geico to be able to just walk away from it, because they basically took the stance of, hey, either you take the money and we take your car, or basically we're not going to settle. So it basically ended up being about a 4-month battle, and eventually I won, but it was a lot of effort. There's the blue rocker panel molding. That was the only thing I couldn't get that was the same color. Those are very hard to replace, by the way, because the little mounting tabs always break off on them. Here I am trimming the rubber off from around the doors, and this is the junkyard molding. I left that on the doors, and I did this to save labor at the body shop because they charge you to take the doors apart and put them back together as well as mounting them. So what I told them I wanted to do was just let them tape everything up, mask it off, and paint it, and then I'm going to put my factory molding and trim back on. So that's why I cut the rubber back all around the window, so you're not going to have a tape line when you put the good molding and rubber back on. There it is with the door sweeps removed. And then I'm also going to go in and I took the door handles off, removed the gaskets, and then reinstalled them. So then when I get the car back from the paint shop, I'll remove the handles again, reinstall the gaskets, and then I don't have a tape line where the paint can peel up later. That way it looks factory. There she is sitting at the body shop. And I got to say, the guy that worked on this car, the little bit of body work that had to be done, the guy really was incredible. It was wrinkled up pretty bad around the fender and the rocker. And I tell you what, he went in and he welded some rods on and yanked those dents out. And after he was done with it and after the car was painted, you really could not tell where it had been hit. I was really super happy with that part of it. So here I am. I've basically managed to get the car repaired, a car that was going to be totaled. It was going to be sold for salvage, which is ridiculous. There's the finished product. Before. After. I got real lucky with the doors because they don't have to paint the door jambs either, which cut down on the labor. And none of these doors had body filler in them. So the doors were laser straight. There was no rust in them. I was super lucky. So what I ended up having to do is take all of the junk out of the junkyard doors and put my stuff in. And because they were different years with different options, the wiring harnesses had to be changed out because I had an express up and down window in the driver's door front or passenger door front. The rear door, the speaker connectors were different, so I couldn't reuse my original speakers. And of course the speakers in the donor car were shot. Here I am reinstalling the original hardware. You can see before and after there. You see where the rubber meets the paint now? And there I am, just kind of putting the guts in the door. So I had to remove all of the inner door workings, the lift motors, the window run guides, all of that stuff. And here she is back together. So it basically looks like it did before it got smashed into. Now, of course, it was Japanese paint before, and now it's, you know, been repainted in a shop where it's not, you know, exactly sterile. So if you're a connoisseur and going over it, it's not concourse anymore, but it was a very good repair. They did a real nice job, really good paint match. Not too shabby for a car that was going to be totaled. You know, but again, I had to do some work on my own. I fit those doors myself too, and I got to say those Japanese doors fit great. There's all the old hardware laying there. Big job, but in the end, I got to keep my vehicle. And maybe if you were a little sharper and maybe a little better negotiator than I am, maybe you could have got the car repaired without having to do any labor. But I'll get into that in a minute, and I'll show you the write-up of how to look at a quote. Now here's a quote from, I think this is the one from Mako. I almost went with Mako. They had a pretty good reputation, this one, and I think this was the one in Huntsville. But I'll show you what they do here, and they all do it. So I'll scan it a little bit so you can see. So you can see here, highlighted in yellow, where it says gross parts $582.44. And then the repair bill is like $3,791. Basically what they do is, all of them do it. They take what is really a $90 door, and then they mark it up, and then they charge you I believe it's a 25% markup on top of that, and then charge you tax on all of that. And then they were all charging about $580 for the rocker panel molding. We'll just get through here. You can see here where it's showing $250 a piece for the doors. I'll highlight that in yellow for you in a second. Paint materials, that wasn't negotiable. The line item markup there for $125, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth row down. You can see where they were charging you $125 on top of their markup. Now here's what the quote would be if you supplied your own doors. It was basically $90 for the doors at LKQ Pick Apart. And if you pick the doors up yourself, they throw in the rocker panel molding for nothing. So that was another $582 off of that. And I subtracted, I think maybe 5 or 6 hours of labor, which you can negotiate that with them. Here's a Sides Auto Body estimate. They were $4,407. They were in the ozone layer. And look what they're charging for doors. $500 a piece they're charging for doors. Absolutely ridiculous. You talk about greedy. These guys were greedy. And not too polite to my wife, by the way, either. She actually went and got this quote for me. So, and of course, they're charging the full price for the rocker molding. This is what the price would be if you supplied your doors and you supplied your own labor. Their labor rates were way out of whack too. So $21.99.20 would have been the repair on that, based on what their labor was. So the other thing I did is I went in, and this was part of the write-up I did to Geico. I showed them what the average replacement value was, and I gave them backup for that. You have to give them backup for everything, and then they're going to try to negotiate you down anyway. Absolutely horrible to deal with. And then I showed them a repair cost without a wheel. I was trying to claim them for the wheel because I did get the wheel was damaged. It was still straight, but it got nicked. But in order to keep them from totaling the car, I actually had to forgo just the wheel. It was that close. So I'll pan in a little bit here on the repair here. This is Sides Auto Body. They were like 4,000 something. This is basically showing you the estimate. They were just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. $625 a door. You talk about greedy. Greedy. Boy, they were greedy. $90 door, they're charging you $625. So in the end, I ended up going with Eagle Collision, which is actually where the Geico guy resided at. And I talked them down to $25,1360. That was what they ended up repairing the vehicle for. So I went from Geico's estimate of, I think it was $4,400 to repair the vehicle, and they were offering me $2,800. I got them to come up to I think it was $3,500 value on the car, and then the $2,500 for the repair, which was within that 75%. The reason I went with Eagle is they use glazerite paint, instead of Nason paint like Mako uses, and it's basically the same quality as factory. I'm just showing you here what I went through. This is what I wrote to Geico, and I let them, that way they know I'm serious. I gave them a breakdown of what I thought was very good condition, fair, and poor. And obviously the value they were giving me on my car was really was poor condition, which was insulting. And then I gave them a breakdown of here's how I got to where I'm at. You can read along on that if you want. And basically I told them I felt the average value was $4,709. And I thought I was being nice about it. But they still didn't agree. They still wanted to battle, because that's what they do. So again, I wasn't the cause of the accident. I had a car that was in above average condition for its age by far. It was in perfect running condition, and they're wanting to take a car that nice and turn it into scrap because they want to save a couple of bucks. Absolutely, I think it's almost criminal what they do, the way that they hide behind the system. So, but if you can figure out what the parts actually cost, and then you go do battle with them, and I actually ended up having to talk to that guy's boss after a while, and let them know I meant business, and then they basically agreed to settle. I still think I lost in the end. I think I spent way too much of my time and labor fixing something that wasn't my screw up. Still wasn't fair, but hey, life's not fair. But if you're looking on how do you want to do battle with them, you're going to have to prove to them what you think the car's worth, and you're going to have to go figure out what it really costs to repair the vehicle. And let me tell you something, when they start offering you and they start talking salvage title stuff, don't agree to it, because there wasn't anybody within 100 miles of me that would touch a vehicle with a salvage title when it came to repairing it. Nobody wants to deal with the liability, none of that. You're basically stuck fixing it yourself. Once you got a salvage title, unless you're in the trade yourself, you can pretty much write that car off as being usable. Here's one of several ads that I collected and sent to Geico to prove what the vehicle was actually worth. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy listening to the world's most interesting man, hit subscribe. We have a lot of really interesting car videos on Million Mile Garage. Give us a shot. Thanks.